This isn't just a video, it's a tribute to the brave, to the legends, to the stars who served. Welcome to Hollywood Heroes, actors who fought in World War II. Clark Gable, the legendary king of Hollywood, traded scripts for the skies by flying 5 combat missions as an observer gunner aboard a B-17 during World War II. Before Mel Brooks brought laughter to the world, he faced real battlefields as a combat engineer in the Battle of the Bulge, fighting Nazis with explosives and sound systems. Roderick Crawford wasn't just tough on screen, he proved his mettle fighting in France during the brutal Battle of the Bulge. Before Jack Palance was delivering menacing stares in Hollywood, he served with strength and courage in the United States Army Air Forces during World War II. Known for his charm on camera, Robert Cummings trained future aviators as a flight instructor in the U.S. Army Air Forces during the war. Robert Ryan barked orders and built warriors as a drill instructor in the United States Marine Corps during World War II. Before becoming a screen icon, Robert Mitchum served as a medic at Fort MacArthur, tending to real wounds off camera. Known for his piercing stare, Lee Van Cleef served aboard a Navy minesweeper during WWII, clearing danger from the seas. Kirk Douglas helped hunt enemy submarines as a communications officer in the U.S. Navy's Anti-Submarine Warfare Division. Audie Murphy wasn't just a Hollywood star, he was the most decorated American combat soldier of World War II. Charles Durning faced the hell of Omaha Beach and survived the Battle of the Bulge before conquering Hollywood. William Holden served with honor as a first lieutenant in the U.S. Army Air Forces during the war. Before making us laugh, Walter Matthau braved the skies as a B-24 Liberator radioman gunner. Charlton Heston took to the air as a radio operator and aerial gunner during World War II. Karl Malden served proudly as a non-commissioned officer in the U.S. Army Air Corps before his legendary acting career took off. Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. wore the uniform for 5 years, serving in the European theater with quiet heroism. Jack Warden served in the U.S. Navy during World War II, long before becoming a Hollywood veteran. Eli Wallach served his country as a staff sergeant and medic before stealing scenes on stage and screen. Jonathan Winters spent 2.5 years in the Pacific Theater, long before he made the world laugh. Before his mission was impossible, Peter Graves spent 2 years in uniform with the U.S. Army Air Forces. Rod Steiger served with grit as a torpedoman on Navy destroyers during the war. Robert Stack served as a Navy officer during WWII before becoming a legend on screen and in voice. Burgess Meredith helped train troops through educational films for the U.S. Armed Forces during the war. George Kennedy saw real combat in the Battle of the Bulge before becoming a commanding screen presence. Carl Reiner brought joy to the front lines, entertaining troops in Hawaii, Guam, and Saipan. Glenn Ford served his country in the Coast Guard Auxiliary, proving he was as dependable in real life as he was on screen. Jason Roberts served in the United States Navy, laying the foundation for a career built on grit and grace. Before charming audiences, Tony Curtis served aboard the USS Proteus, a submarine tender during World War II. Edmund O'Brien flew with purpose, serving in the U.S. Army Air Forces during the war. Don Knotts, known for nervous laughs, served proudly in the Army's 6,817th Special Services Battalion, lifting soldiers' spirits. Eddie Albert served as a Navy Lieutenant Junior grade and even rescued Marines under fire at Tarawa. Mike Wallace, long before grilling guests on TV, served as a communications officer aboard the USS Enthedan. Sterling Hayden saw fierce combat in the Balkans and Mediterranean with the OSS during WWII. Sammy Davis Jr. joined the U.S. Army, where he not only served but also fought a personal battle against racism. Martin Balsam was a combat engineer in the U.S. Army before his career on stage and screen took off. Telly Savalas, the future Kojak, served in Company C, 12th Medical Training Battalion during WWII. Dick Van Dyke served in the U.S. Army Air Forces, entertaining troops with humor and heart. Burt Lancaster served in the 5th Army in Italy from 1943 to 1945, long before dazzling on screen. Henry Fonda worked behind the lines as a quartermaster on the destroyer USS Satterley. Hal Holbrook built his way to greatness, serving in the Army Corps of Engineers during WWII. Lee Marvin was a Marine Scout sniper who fought ferociously in the Pacific Theater. Gene Kelly put down his dancing shoes to serve in the U.S. Naval Air Service during WWII. Paul Newman served in the U.S. Navy as a radio man and gunner after being rejected from pilot training for colorblindness. Terry Dean Stanton was on the front lines of the Battle of Okinawa aboard a tank landing ship. Buddy Hackett served for 3 years manning anti-aircraft defenses while bringing laughter to his comrades. John Roddenberry flew 89 combat missions in the Army Air Forces before boldly creating Star Trek. James Doohan, the beloved Scotty, stormed Juno Beach with the Canadian Army on D-Day. James Stewart served as a colonel in the Army Air Corps and flew 20 combat missions over Nazi Germany. Tyrone Power put his acting career on hold to serve as a Marine Corps pilot in the South Pacific. Bea Arthur served as a truck driver and dispatcher in the Marine Corps, making her one of the first female Marines. Douglas Fairbanks Jr. was commissioned as a reserve officer in the U.S. Navy and helped plan special operations during WWII. Pat Hingle served on the destroyer USS Marshall, standing strong on the high seas before stepping onto the stage. Ernest Borgnine patrolled the Atlantic coast on an anti-submarine warfare ship years before becoming a Hollywood legend. Robert Altman flew over 50 bombing missions in a B-24 Liberator, long before reshaping American cinema. Cesar Romero enlisted in the U.S. Coast Guard in 1942, trading Hollywood lights for wartime duty. Mickey Rooney entertained troops across America and Europe with the U.S. Army's Special Services. Jackie Cooper, the child star turned sailor, served honorably in the United States Navy. Charles Bronson flew as a B-29 aerial gunner, facing the enemy before facing the camera. Art Carney served on the front lines as an infantryman and machine gun crewman in WWII. Jack Lemmon served as an ensign on an aircraft carrier before becoming one of Hollywood's most versatile actors. Don Rickles served on a motor torpedo boat tender, delivering zingers later, but orders first. Jackie Coogan volunteered for the U.S. Army Air Forces, putting duty before his movie fame. Myrna Loy didn't wear a uniform, but served bravely with the Red Cross during WWII. Rock Hudson served in the Philippines as a Navy aircraft mechanic before he became a silver screen icon. Johnny Carson served as a communications officer in the Pacific years before commanding late-night TV. Red Buttons took his comedy on the road, entertaining Allied troops across Europe during the war. Van Heflin captured history as a combat cameraman in the U.S. Army. Audrey Hepburn aided the Dutch resistance during World War II, showing courage long before captivating audiences worldwide. They weren't just movie stars, they were patriots, warriors, and symbols of strength in a time the world desperately needed heroes. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to honor more stories of courage and legacy. Until next time, stay inspired and stay grateful.